Hariji, over to you.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Shri Ram.
Shri Ram.
Yes.
We have a very personal connect with Bhagwan Shri Ram. Village I come from, the Kuladevata of our place is west of the ancient temple town of Kanchipuram. And we come from a village called Daman. Next to it is a temple called Tirupakuri. That is the Jatayu Moksha Kshetra. That is where Rama did Dahan for Jatayu. And that is our Kuladevata. So we have a very personal connect that way with Ram for generations to come, the past. And on the subject of Rama and Ram Janmabhoomi, we got involved in the earlier case in the Supreme Court of the Ramasetu case. When people had asked us, since we are doing research in Bharatyan, we were very specifically asked about the Ramasetu matter. We made a film, a 40-minute film on proving that the Ramasetu was a man-made structure 7,100 years ago. And we submitted it then to the Supreme Court of India through then Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. This is in 2007. And after we followed it up with a book called Historical Rama, both proving Rama as a historical person as well as the Ramasetu being a man-made structure with all details and layers, the bridge construction details, everything that we did that. And then this was actually followed up by the Sri Lankan government inviting us to do research on Ravana and come up with information. So we visited Sri Lanka multiple times then when there was insurgency was at a peak. And we compiled data from on the ground, visiting the caves and the hills and the slopes of Ramboda and Ravana Boda, where the actual battle was fought, where Hanuman landed in Lanka, all those places. And we compiled a book called Ramayana in Lanka. This is about 12 years back, out of which came the Ramayana Trail in Lanka by the Sri Lankan government. So we prepared the document and gave it to them then. This was followed up by our third book on the subject of Rama, the trilogy of Rama, where we wrote a book called Ayodhya, War and Peace, looking at the city of Ayodhya, fundamentally because when Rama and Lakshmana are historical, then their children Lava and Kucha are also historical, and then their children's children must be living with us today. Where are they living? In Ayodhya, Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Andhra Pradesh, or also are they living in Turkey, or the whole perspective of Rama?
Actually, in that book, we're doing this work. What came out is that here we have been fighting between two communities for Ayodhya, and we have been identifying just these two communities as stakeholders. But when you look at this entire gamut of influence that Rama has had over so many civilizations, it just opened our eyes to the number of stakeholders there are for Ayodhya. So Ayodhya is one, fundamentally such an ancient city of the world, because parallelly we had been dating the historicity of Rama. Because if somebody is historical, you have this line, we say while divinity is a matter of faith, historicity is a matter of existence. So when you say existence, and then you have to show for today's modern generation dates as per the Gregorian calendar. So how far can you go? So that was an approach that we took. And so for so many millennia, Rama's influence has spread across so many cultures and civilizations. So they all have their roots, therefore, in Ayodhya as well. So he's truly an international figure with such a widespread influence. So it just lifted Ayodhya from just this small region to a totally different level for us.
As an international city and Rama as an international personage. I'll tell you one example that we had when we were researching in Lanka. We met a person by the name Fernando. This person, Fernando, is a Christian by name, obviously, and he claims descendants from the Ravana clan of Rakshasa, biologically. And he says, my grandparents may have changed religion, but my lineage continues. Same story you'll hear in Indonesia as well. So this is how it's gone through across times. Getting specifically to Tamil Nadu, where there are thousands of Rama temples all dotting the land beautifully. One great king of Tamil Nadu is Rajaraja Chola, of which all of us have heard of, and the magnificent temple that he built for Shiva was originally called Rajarajeswaram, later came to be called Brihadiswaram. Brihad meaning big, gigantic. So that's a temple that he built. And his son, who followed him, Rajendra Chola, what was the title that he took on? Was Ravi Kula Tilaka Rajendra Chola. Ravi is obviously son there. So Ravi Kula, so he belongs to the Kula of Ravi, Ravi Kula Tilaka. So Rajendra Chola. So he claims very clearly the Chola dynasty coming from the Surya Vamsa. So it is there all across the world. It's beautiful. In Tamil Nadu, you have that. And you have the Ramasetu, obviously in Tamil Nadu. And you have the Darbhasaina Ramar in Tirupallani, where Rama is supposed to have taken rest. And all across the land, you have beautiful temples which are monuments of different events in the story of Ramayana. And it's not just there, it is in the tapestry. It is there in the paintings, the temples, the stories, the ballads.
Look at this.
The sari that Hema is having.
I just wore this specifically today to celebrate this epoch-making event. Look at this jari work with Rama from Kanchipuram silk. So beautiful, the way Rama has been expressed in art, both dance, you see in Bharatnatyam, how beautifully they show Rama in songs, Tyagaraja songs, and all of them totally on Rama. It's amazing how Rama has pervaded whole of India, and especially you can see that even in South India today, these temples are not small temples, they are huge, gigantic temples. You go to Tiruvallur, that is Veera Raghava. So it's Raghava again, which is Rama.
Bold Raghava. Veera Raghava. See, that's where my mother is from. The temple of Veera Raghava is my mother's lineage. My father's ancestral temple. My father's ancestral temple is Vijaya Raghava, the victorious Raghava. So one Veera Raghava is going towards Lanka to battle. The returning Raghava is Vijaya Raghava, the victorious Raghava. So this is where you can, there's umpteen stories in this land which speak about this. And instantly, each divinity has a specific color that we give. For example, Krishna, as all of us know, is Megha Shyama. Shiva, we say Neelakanta or Nanjangud. The famous temple near Mysore, Nanjangud, Neelakanta, because of the hala poison in his throat. Similarly, Rama's color is green. That's why in Tamil, you have a specific green for Rama called Ramar Pachai. Pachai means green color. You have a Ramar Pachai. That's why the sari border is Ramar Pachai. The shirt I'm wearing is Ramar Pachai, because you have to, when you celebrate Rama, you celebrate him in all the right perspectives that he brings forth. So Rama is shown in a green color. So everybody has a beautiful thing. And through this program, we'd like to pay obeisance to the thousands and lakhs of people who have staked their life for the movement of building this temple in Ayodhya, the Janmasthana of Rama. So everyone, it's countless number of people.
Over the last 500 years, it's not just the Ram Janmabhoomi movement of now, of recent past, but for 500 years, they have kept the struggle alive tirelessly. And which is why we are getting, and actually we are the fortunate ones to be able to see such an epoch-making moment during our lifetimes. Who ever thought, in fact, even when we wrote the book Ayodhya, War and Peace, to think for ourselves, oh my God, this case is going to keep on prolonging, because we were tracing the overall history of the struggle. And we said, oh, this is going to keep on prolonging. God knows when it's going to be resolved. And it is indeed heartening, and also hats off to our nation as a whole to have been able to come to a resolution in our generation, in our lifetime. And we owe it a lot to all these people. So today, while we are also celebrating, we have to pause for a moment and thank all these people who have kept it alive in memory. The struggle itself, they've kept it alive in our memories.
We should do vandanam to all these countless, what you say is kotana koti people, the koti people, the crores of people who have kept it alive. So she'll sing a song of Saint Tyagaraja on this very special occasion, which Tyagaraja himself composed and sang.
It's just a very tiny word, small verse, but it has immense magnitude. You know, it just goes like this. Entaro mahanu bhavulu antariki vandanamulu entaro mahanu bhavulu. So it says, Tyagaraja, he was such a devotee of Rama that in his story, there are incidences where Rama comes in disguise just to listen to him singing on Rama himself. So, and he says, there are so many great souls, and I am praying, I am paying my obeisance to all these people, my vandanams to all these great souls. So I think we all owe our obeisance to these people for over 500 years, and also for people of today for having brought this to a resolution in a very amicable manner, acceptable manner, so that we have a great future forward. And what is this future? If you see, what is this event, what the event of foundation ceremony, what is it going to imply? What for history to come is three things that we can see very distinctly. A, it is a temple which is for Rama at Ayodhya, the place of his birth. So three unsaid things are getting established in this one act. One, the historicity of Rama, because it is a birthplace. That means you're accepting that he was a personage who was living on this earth, had a birth, and this birth was in Ayodhya. So you're also establishing the geography, and you're saying that this is the Ayodhya connected with the birth of Rama. And you're also building a temple, not just some monument, some structure, but a temple where you're also showing that in India, our culture, our civilization has always had this idea of the twinning of divinity as well as historicity. So people can be historical and divine because we have always believed in a concept of avatar. So where the divine can descend. So it also brings in that aspect of divinity and establishes it with this temple. So three things are getting established here. And furthermore, what will this temple signify for the future generations to come? If you see, what has kept Rama alive in memory for so long? Why has he been celebrated by so many people? Why did he influence so many cultures world over?
It was not because Rama won over Ravana. Many kings have defeated many other kings. Many have been victorious, but none of them have taken on the scale that Rama has done. Physically, he was Ajanubhava, broad-shouldered and tall. Apart from that, what is it? Rama was Maryada Purusha. That is Purushottama. Nobody else gets that title Maryada Purushottama except Rama. That's because of the qualities, the guna of Rama. What is it? Rama had 16 guna, which is what Valmiki uses Ramayana as a tapestry to bring out the guna of Rama, the 16 guna. And so there's a dialogue between Valmiki, the author, and Narada, where Valmiki asks, who is the Gunavan, who has got all the guna? To which Narada replies, why in the past we have somebody in the present and he is Rama. So Valmiki writes the 16 guna of Rama, which has become the story of Ramayana. And this temple and the story of Ramayana, so that we as humans can aspire to as many of this guna as possible, so that the humanity itself can look up to this and celebrate Rama and Ramayana and this temple. So he's a civilization hero. He's a hero of humans, of humanity as a whole.